everyone. Thanks for taking time off on a Saturday. So here I have a pair of sneakers. I'll explain more about them in detail later. Basically, Vechain, VE is short for verify. We want to enable every consumer to verify data with their smartphones, right? So anyway, the project. So the Vechain project started in June 2015, and Vechain technology was incorporated in 2017. So when I joined the company was last year in November. There were about 50 people in Shanghai, but right now we've grown to about 100, of which 50 or more are blockchain developers. So our R&D team sits in Shanghai, and we have satellite office in Paris and Singapore and Tokyo, whom they support. So Vechain, it's been very exciting working with Vechain. We are one of the first incumbent of PwC's technology incubation program, and also DNVGL, who's just right down the road, they have actually invested in us because I think these two companies believe that blockchain is going to disrupt their business. So the Vechain project was founded by Sunny on the top left, and he was the former CIO of Lvmh in China. So he well understood the challenges that luxury brands face when it comes to counterfeit in China. And these are our core team members. So we have Jay, who has experience working in PwC and Deloitte, Kevin, 12 years of cybersecurity in PwC, and the real rock star in our company is actually Gu Jianliang. He is the CTO, and he used to work for TCL, and he owns about a few hundred patents. He was one of the first batch of engineers who actually owns patents to IoT development, and he's also very good in software development. So together with our blockchain developer, they lead our R&D team, our IoT team, and also the development of a blockchain core. Yes. Sorry. Yeah, and I guess because we have clear segregation of duties, we're a startup, but we run like an enterprise, a lot of VCs like us. So I mentioned PwC have invested in us. DNVGL have appointed us as their global blockchain network provider. And Brea Capital, Finpushu Capital, Draper Dragon has also invested in us. So what exactly is Vechain? So we're building a public blockchain made for enterprise adoption. A lot of blockchain projects out there are either DApps or platforms. In Vechain, we are everything. We believe a lot in IoT technology. We also believe in building a very scalable blockchain core. So we actually, in June this year, we launched our own mainnet. It's the VET token. And we have addressed some issues that a lot of enterprises have given us feedback about, the Ethereum platform, for instance. We're more scalable. We're at 50 TPS at the moment, but we can scale very easily up to 10,000 TPS. And also, we also added a lot of core features on the protocol level, like introducing MPP, multi-party payment protocol, etc. And you can read all about that on our Medium website. So in my generation, I believe, that, Internet of Things, blockchain and AI is really going to be one of those transformational technologies. So in January this year, DNVGL came to Singapore. We had this rebranding event, and DNVGL said, with leveraging IoT and blockchain, they're going to reinvent the digital assurance process. So, Internet of Things, I'm sure everyone understands and everyone agrees that we're already living in the age of Internet of Things. We're using our smartphones to make payments. We're using our smartphones to track the number of hours we sleep, the number of steps we take. On the B2B side, enterprises are also investing in IoT technology. They're deploying sensors. They're tracking their assets. They're able to monitor their assets before they actually fail. Intelligent warehousing with the boom of e-commerce, Alibaba, Amazon, they're all investing in robotics. You're optimizing your warehouse space. So, I can go on and on about enterprises investing in IoT. So why is blockchain a game changer for IoT, right? So you're talking about billions of interconnected devices all over the world. So what the blockchain can do is that it stores data very securely and is stored on a decentralized network, which makes it almost virtually unhackable. And also all that data, once you put it on the blockchain, it becomes immutable. So once you put it there, no one can change it. And that is the beauty of the blockchain. So for our supply chain use cases, we create a unique ID for every asset that we want to track. So we are able to dispatch a product, attach an IoT sensor with it, and from there we're able to collect data like temperature, humidity, geolocation, as it changes chain of custody throughout its entire supply chain globally. So this is how we do. The physical product actually has an IoT device, like a sensor, and then all that data all the data is then uploaded on a blockchain so that you're certain that that data was not manipulated by any human. So at Vechain, we have very tangible solutions. And also at Vechain, we're building an entire ecosystem of partners. So if you know right now, blockchain is still very nascent. It's still at very nascent stages. So we're building an ecosystem. And as I mentioned, PwC and VGL have already invested in us. We're working very closely with some automotive companies like BMW and Group Renault. So with BMW, we've already worked with them for the past year on 2 proof of concepts. And we're at the stage where we're talking about how we're going to bring this POC into real life adoption, right? May this year, we were part of Evotech, Lvmh Innovation Award, where they awarded Vechain the Special Mention Award. One of these brands, I can't say exactly who, but this is a screenshot of the Lvmh website. One of these brands are a paying customer. They're already paying for chips and putting their luxury items on the blockchain. And the whole idea of what we're trying to solve in the luxury goods segment is that, remember I said counterfeit is a huge problem, right? So this particular brand wanted to launch a limited edition collection. But this company was not vertically integrated in the sense that they also outsource everything from manufacturing to warehousing to the third-party logistics. So this company wanted to stop the gray market. So what is the gray market? The gray market is essentially authorized manufacturers are producing excess, and they're selling the excess in other markets. So that is the gray market. So if you're launching a limited edition collection of 1,500 bags, for instance, we'll give this company 1,500 chips, and these chips are then sewn into each bag. So then you're able to track the movement and everything. Basically, you follow the life cycle of the bag. So in Singapore, I worked with SBTG Surplus. He's been in the sneaker business for 15 years. So big brands like Nike, ASICS will commission him to produce limited edition collections, like thousands of shoes. And then, but he is also facing counterfeit problems. So he told me, hey, what can I do to prevent all of that so that my consumers, when they buy a pair of shoes, they know that it's authentic, right? So what we did is, again, you see a chip over there. We sew it inside the shoe label, and then you're able to use the Vechain Pro app. You do a scan, and you're able to see information. You're even able to see a video of the sneaker artist talking to you and telling you, hey, this is one out of 100 pairs, one of 20 pairs, and it's limited edition. It's an original pair of shoe. Besides SBTG, recently Arket, A-R-K-E-T, which is a H&M subsidiary, if you go into a London store or any of the Arket stores, we also have a beanie, which you can scan, and then again, it will show you the traceability information of that beanie. So this Arket label, they're all about sustainability. They want to showcase to their consumers, and they want to build transparency to their consumers that the materials that they use are sustainably sourced. So the certificates of all these sustainability sourced materials are then put on a blockchain, so the consumer can scan and he's able to see that, oh yes, this product is indeed sourced ethically. So very interestingly, BYD, which is short for Build Your Dreams, they're one of China's greatest electric car automakers. And very recently, they're going to launch a new model called the Qing Pro. And in the Qing Pro, there's a little tablet for electric car drivers to access many types of mobile apps. And one of the apps is actually DNVGL and Vechain carbon credit application. Sorry, can you help me click on the link? Yeah. So essentially, BYD is very innovative. They have also built an ecosystem which PICC, which is People's Insurance Company of China, they're also involved. And here is how it works. Okay, it's loading, all right. So the whole idea is basically if I drive an electric car and I am eco-friendly, right? So I actually get to generate carbon credits on the blockchain. And so BYD is very excited about this idea because they're all about driving sustainability. And DNVGL are actually the auditors. So they certify how much carbon credits you earn from, or how much carbon emissions you did not produce, so that in turn gives you carbon credits. Is it gonna? Sorry, just give me. The video link is loading.
那我们跟比亚迪合作，有一个碳积分的一个应用，获取到这个车联网的行车数据，然后行车的数据里面包含里程、油耗、电耗等数据，然后我们通过这个碳专家提供的一个减排公式，然后我们把这个公式形成了一个智能合约部署在我们区块链上，然后我们根据这个减排当量核发相应的这个碳积分给这个车主用户在这个比亚迪的新能源车上车载的这个 app， 它主要是能够去通过 D-Link 上开放的 API 获取行车的车联网数据这个是我们碳积分应用平台上比亚迪 D-Link 上的一个碳分应用。这样的话，我们打开这个碳分应用，会跳出来一个登录界面。这个登录界面呢，我们会通过二维码扫描跟手机端 app 绑定的关系实现一个登录，然后用户就可以通过手机端的 app， 然后在这个生态平台上的别的企业进行消费花费碳积分，进行这个消费活动了。
Thank you. Hope you enjoyed that video. All right. Yeah, so the carbon bank is very interesting because everyone's going towards electric cars, using sharing electric bike sharing platforms, etc. So we're looking at a new ecosystem, a carbon ecosystem, which we're building together with DMVGL. We're actually sourcing sustainable products which we can sell on this ecosystem, within this ecosystem. And our partnership with BYD, I mean, we actually have prior experience working with other automotive companies, like I mentioned, BMW. So right now, we actually work with them on a POC basis. So the idea is they want to track the life cycle of the car, maybe driving behavior, maybe they want to track odometer mileage, because in the second-hand market, odometer fraud is about maybe 30% of cars that are being resold in the resale market. This is a POC. We worked with Group Renault as well, and we built basically a digital passport for each car. It was only in the innovation center, so it's not real life yet. Yeah, and the whole idea is you're able to follow the life cycle of the car. I understand how many times does the car owner send it for repair, and whether he repairs it with fake parts or repairs it with authentic parts. This, though, is already real life. So if you go to a store called Wine in Shanghai and you scan a QR code of a bottle, this is what you see. This was about last year, 2016 that we did this 2017 that we did this project, and yeah, so you're able to see when did it leave the chateau, when did DIG pick it up, and when did it enter the retail store. So DIG is actually a state-owned wine importer, and Ferrero & Fields is a chateau in France. But that was our first generation. So right now, if you come to me and you tell me, hey, Sarah, I want to put my products on a blockchain, I actually want to start tracking my products, this is the typical interface that we have. This is one of our web applications. We call it Vechain Hella. And the whole idea is you're able to not only show the date and time of when the product was dispatched, you're also able to see the geolocation. And so this brings a lot of value, because if you're an Australian winemaker or you're a French winemaker, and you want to prove to your consumers that your product are indeed produced in Australia or in France, now you are able to put that geolocation on a blockchain, which brings a lot of value, especially to people who claim that their products are from a certain country. Use technology to prove it, right? So this is a dashboard, and then you're also able to see where your product is at the moment, like where was it in the last scan? When was it dispatched from the winery? When did your freight forwarder pick it up? When did it enter the retailer? Yeah, so, and you're also able to see that, you can't really fake the location. Yeah. So this is just a demo. Hang on. Yeah, in the enterprise side, DMVGL, like I mentioned, they've created this decentralized application called My Story. They basically built it upon the previous slide which I showed you, our web app. And the whole idea is not only are you able to track the location of when it was produced, you're able to go deep down into, you're able to get granular data on how the grape was being grown, right? So can you imagine a number of sensors and IoT sensors you're going to deploy into the vineyards to track all of that from grape to bottle? So for them, they will ask the companies, like the winemakers, what is it that you want to prove? Is it the proof of authenticity, proof of sustainability, proof of origin, proof of supply chain integrity? And based on what you want to prove, we're able to matchmake the IoT sensors, the relevant IoT sensors, and then DMVGL will have their platform, which I believe is the My Story platform, where you're able to generate all that data and you're able to visualize all that data as well. Yeah, so this is how it works. You get data about your soil, about your fertilizer, what kind of grapes that you're using. All these are being tracked on the blockchain. So it's pretty exciting how DMVGL, who's actually a business assurance company, is going to roll this out to their wine customers. Sorry. Yeah. So wine is very interesting because most of us actually read the wine label before we consume it. So wine is one of those products. And I think in Singapore, we don't really have food fraud because we really trust our regulatory bodies. But in other emerging countries, this is still a very prevalent issue. Yeah, so these are just some statistics. 71% of consumers are willing to pay a premium if suppliers actually are more transparent and they give provenance details. And for us as a company, we are one of the founding members of the Shanghai Wine and Liquor Blockchain Alliance, where, like I showed the video earlier on, we're also part of the digital carbon ecosystem of DMVGL. And in logistics and supply chain, we're seeing a lot of use cases where we're actually tracking the products, and because all these assets are on the blockchain, more insurance companies in China are actually willing to provide coverage for those assets because you're able to track and figure out where it is at any time and moment. Yeah, so that's about it. And I'm not sure if you're here as, sorry. So these are, you can reach me at sarah.nabaa@vechain.org. We have a lot of information on medium.com, and we also have our source codes available at GitHub. So if you're a developer, please go ahead, try and test it out, okay? Thank you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Sarah. We have time for questions.
So we have time for questions.
Yeah, we have 5 minutes for
I'm familiar with what your company does, and I read about it first about a year and a half ago, and I've been following this entire growth of the supply chain solution, and I see that there are a lot of companies that are building their own systems. What are the advantages of using an outside company like yours versus building their own, which seems to actually be a trend I noticed in the last 12 months?
So actually, we work with companies a few ways. So one of them, if they have their own technical team and they are building their own products, what we do is we have RESTful APIs which we can integrate. So we actually set up a test account for them in our developer portal, and they're able to integrate basically integrate their product onto our network. So it depends on how the technical teams are being formed. If they have no technical leads at all, we actually have web apps which they can directly use. So it really depends on who are we talking to. If they have a technical team, they already have a product that they want to launch on the blockchain, and we'll just integrate it on the Vechain network. So we will always try to tell people, think of us as a network provider. And if you want to be on a blockchain, it's definitely possible. We just have to figure out what is it that you want to integrate, what are the data sets that you want to put on a blockchain. And a lot of people think that you don't need cloud or a centralized cloud, but no, you still need a valid database, you still need a secure database. It could be Microsoft Azure, it could be Amazon and all that, but we are still identifying what are the data sets that you want to put on the blockchain. So when I talk to enterprises, it really depends on whether they have their own technical team, technical resources. And we always have the API and the option for them to integrate whatever that they're building onto our network.
So follow-up question. A follow-up question to that. So going down the road, let's say 2 or 3 years from now, do you see most of the companies opting for a solution like yours or building their own in-house? Where do you see the future, if you will, a couple of years from now?
I think they'll most likely build their own because they know their process is best. right? And then they would probably need to figure out which network they want to be on. Do they want to be on an Ethereum network? Do they want to be on a Vechain network? And then someone has to evaluate for them which network is more suited for their use case. And also, what kind of scalability are we talking about? What's the number of volume of transactions we're talking about? So it depends. But I mean, at this moment, we're building an ecosystem, like you mentioned, like I showed earlier on. There's DMVGL, there's PwC on board, and these are just some of the companies we've talked to. But I think whenever a company evaluates a network provider, they don't necessarily understand blockchain as well. Yeah, and then we try to make it simple for them to adopt blockchain by saying, hey, you don't need to own a crypto wallet. We actually can charge you per transaction that you consume in fiat, for instance. So we just try to make it as easy for them to adopt our network and make it less complicated for them. Yes. The gentleman first. Oh.
Hi there. For the use case at the end of the day, what is it going to look like for the actual user that's not in the crypto space, but are they going to have an app and they're going to scan it? Are they going to have to pay in VeChain? What's the...
Exactly. So the whole idea is people who don't know about crypto or who don't own crypto assets, they can still use the blockchain through applications created by companies. It could be like, if I want to scan for instance, a luxury item, but I still need something to scan, right? So it could be like, for instance, maybe, I don't know, a brand's particular mobile app, and you need to think, if you want your database, if you want your customers to interact with you, and you want them to exchange data with you, what do you need to incentivize them? Yeah. So you have to put a 20% discount or something, right? Yeah. And we actually have MPP, and that is basically, if you don't own a crypto asset, you can still transact, because we have a sponsor address that is, basically our enterprise account. So we've come out those little features on our protocol network layer, very different from Ethereum. If you want to transact any transaction in Ethereum, you need a wallet first, and you need to pay ETH. Yeah.
Could you also make it to where a business has a product, and that product, it's built into the original cost of that, and then the clients don't have to, whoever wants to scan it ever sends it, then is
so for
free?
us, whenever you scan a product, it's free. But for you to write information, to upload information, then it's chargeable. Yeah, no problem. Hi.
Hi. When you talked about tracing the provenance authentication, say for a bottle of wine, is it specifically to each individual bottle of wine, or is just a general label for that particular class of bottle of wine?
So we actually, whenever we talk to wine companies, we actually have to create a unique ID per wine label. So now if a wine company comes to me and they're like, okay, we want to be on a blockchain, I say, well, you need to think of how you're going to repackage your wine bottles. Yeah. Yes, so we track per individual bottle. Each one has its own ID. Each one has its own ID on a QR code. Yeah, but the QR codes are not foolproof. Our NFC codes are the most foolproof ones. They're tamper-proof. They're unhackable because they're well encrypted. QR codes, as you know, if you scan it, you can actually duplicate it. Yeah, so that is a problem. But that's a problem about cost as well. Are you talking about premium wines? Are you talking about $100 bottles or $20 bottles? Talking about apples versus champagne? So it depends on the price points of the product. Then we match according to them, the identifier.
I come across a company that tries to digitalize every product out of each can.
Yes, it's possible. So we do that. And then for instance, it's 6 bottles of wine, we package it into a carton, the carton to the pallet, to the container. We're able to track all of that. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for all your time and questions.